Well, hello, look, it's you again. It's you. I'm glad to see you back here because you look marvelous, darling. Today we're going to talk about price to pay. The price to pay. All right, my trusty old sweet tea with Steva. Some missions, zero carb. Had a couple. I'm a bread guy. When I started this thing, I'm going, how can I live without bread? The Bible says that we've got the bread of life. And it's always talking about bread. He broke bread. We call family leftovers. What they call leftover Tuesdays. What do you call it on Wednesday? Whatever's left Wednesday. Oh, that work? Whatever's left. What if there's bones? Little bit above on the carbs. Right with this one, but we're controlling our day. I love candy jams. And we have a mixture of squash, zucchini, and onions. Some chicken tenders here. The keto brand breadcrumbs. Talk among yourself. I don't talk with my mouth full. So we'll talk about paying the price. My granddaddy told me one time, I remember this, he said, anything that's of worth has weight. We talk about paying the price for something, and I specifically talk about in leadership. I talk about it in teaching, even, with the fivefold ministry, apostle, prophet, evangelist, pastor, teacher. Leadership, performance, doing things before an audience. There's a price to pay if you want to sound good, if you want to do good, if you want to stand out above the rest, not for any narcissistic tendencies, but that you just want to do something that's really going to stand out. Like as a songwriter, one of the things that I always try to do is I try to make sure when I'm writing, is that line cheesy? Or is it generic? Cheesy. I looked on a log and I saw a frog and I thought, oh, I wonder if he blogs. I mean, just because it rhymes, it comes out cheesy. Or it's generic. You just write. A lot of times songs are put out mashed up, especially with some of the days country, some of the days pop music. It's just like they take 10 pins, they duct tape them together, they'll start writing one song here and all the rest of them are written. Just power. It's like a Hallmark Christmas movie. You know what's going to happen in the beginning. You know how they're going to get agitated towards the end of the movie. And you know they're going to get together. That person who left the city and came back, it's the same old, same old. One thing I was taught years ago is you look for the hook. Look for the hook. When I wrote the song Something Out of Nothing, the Crab Family recorded, I got the idea. He made something out of nothing. I called my, I think the A&R director, the one who was over the songwriting, one who's recording a lot of things, getting the groups, Zane King, wonderful man, tremendous steel guitar player. And I said, Zane, I've got an idea for a song. He said, what is it? I said, he made something out of nothing. He went, ooh, I like that. It's a good hook. Get that to me. Let me hear it. So I wrote it on the way to Alabama, about 15, 20 minutes, got all the lyrics, and then I kind of put it together. About 3 days later, sent it up to him. The next week, he calls me and says, hey, Gerald Crabb, the Crabb family, they're doing their first project. They're going to put that on there. I went, wow, Gerald writes all this stuff. But it's that hook. And in a song, when you're writing, you want to find that thing that really is of essence. And it don't come easy. You really have to work for it. And the same thing goes with if you're performing. If I bought me a harmonica, I bought a bow for my fiddle, and I've got charts for my fiddle, my mandolin, which chords are the same, chords for my banjo, and I've got the harmonica. Well, I can play on every one of them, but I'm not going to get on stage with it. I mean, I tried to play Mary Had a Little Lamb on the fiddle. I think Mary went off and ran off to become a hermit in the mountains. Nobody knows what happened to the lamb. It was so bad. But I would never get on stage and try to perform that. Why? Because I haven't put the time in, effort to make it of something that's worth someone to listen to. Now, I want to say this to you worship leaders, to you people who are serving on a worship team, people who are serving in a church teaching, or you're assisting in the ministry. You may not be at the head of the ministry. The one thing that you have to do is you have to prepare and you have to sacrifice. You can't, when someone says, well, you need to put in the sacrifice, you can't get angry about that. Because when you get angry about the sacrifice being made, it's telling me that you're not ready or willing to put in that time. Or you're going to put time in, but it's a time that you want to put in. It's the time that you want to sacrifice. It's the time that you want to be involved. Paul used an old English word, not being superfluous, meaning whatever brings attention to yourself before God, don't do it. And I remember one time a young lady was going to hold me hostage by saying, well, you know, you don't have, there's hardly anybody on this team that can sing as well as I do. And you need me here. I looked at her and I told her, I said, if I was the only one on stage, that's how it would be. Because I would do that first before I put you with that attitude that is not conducive and cohesive to the ministry. Everything must be focused on him. Show you, he's not on a shelf when we enter in and the pastor or whoever is going to be leading that day that walks in, goes there, unlocks it, takes God off a shelf, brings him and sets him, and then we come and worship him and he puts him back in. That ain't how it works. The place of the church is where we come together to get strong. It's the Henson had a song, Soul Filling Station, the church, and the place is for a family. But those that are called to do leadership, those that have a gift, especially the gift of worship, the gift of music, whatever it is, you have to remember this. You have to sacrifice if you're called to do it. It is required for you to do so. And you want to bring your A game because you're not doing it for the people, you're doing it for God. If God himself came down, if Christ revealed himself physically right now and made a phone call to your home and said, I'm coming to visit you at 8 o'clock tonight, it's 9 a.m. in the morning, you wouldn't just nonchalantly go, I'll get to the house and kind of make ready around 8:30. You'd go straight home. You'd tell your job, listen, I got to go or I got to quit. Jesus is coming and I got to make my house ready. You would go and work. You would sweat. You would clean. You would fold. You'd make sure the dust that's been left on top of that picture of great-grandmother you hung 2 years ago that's never been touched. You'd dust that. That house would be immaculate and ready for him because you would make that sacrifice. And when we come into his presence, we have to keep that in mind. So you musicians, you singers, you teachers, preachers, prophets, evangelists, even the apostle, you make yourself ready. The sacrifice is worth it because if it has worth, it's going to mean something. I want God to be moved on my behalf. I want the church to be moved on God's behalf. I want them to, when they leave, say, the people on that worship team, the God of those people were great. I don't want them to go and say, you know what? The God of these people, the people of the God we worship was pretty awesome. I want them to say, when we leave this house, they led me into a worship. Or that teacher said, I studied, I made myself ready. And when I left, I was fulfilled. I was complete. I felt like I've got something. And I wanted to share that today. So remember, you've got to sacrifice. You've got to work it. There's a purpose and a reason, and you got to pay the price. Practice, sing, listen, study, teach, be ready to give an answer at any time. And I promise you, if you do so, God's going to see that effort and it's going to bless you mightily. So take it for what it is. I'm going to get back to lunch. PT out.